So, thanks all for being here. This is All Black Everything Roundtable, which we have um, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We have a great group of individuals with us. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. So let me introduce everyone here. We'll start with my man, Bam. Bam coming in, right? Like swinging, saying some nonsense. He's know he's going to trigger me, right? Talking about Moneybags Joe. Was that what you said? Yeah. So, good work on starting us off on a terrible foot.
Yeah, no. Like as always, super grateful for you inviting me, Prime. I love having these conversations. We have a wonderful cast and a terrible cast at the same time. So this is gonna go swimmingly as always. But no, I love ABE. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like it's really I get super passionate about this. So yeah, I'm Black American Made. Follow me on Twitter at Black American Made. I give great takes.
Oh boy, we're just gonna have to leave that at that. Don't no time to argue. It's his intro. Let's go to Fanatic. Fanatic. Thanks as well for coming through. Fanatic actually.
Wait, that's not my Twitter. I'm sorry, I gave a fake Twitter. I just remembered. It's I Bam Bam Bigelow. My name is Black American Mate. Sorry.
Oh,
my bad, Fanatic. My bad.
We both know that I've made that same mistake many times already. So let's go to about his Twitter, not mine. Because I got like brand consistency. So yeah, it's PrimeCayes everywhere. Let's just go to my man Fanatic.
Yo, thanks for having me. I'm always excited for ABE. It's one of those rare occasions where it's like, yo, I didn't get the invite, so I had to hit this nigga up. Like, yo, are we doing this? What's going on? I'm excited to talk issues. I always wish there's more people because, and I can ignore some niggas and just have the conversation with the rational brains. But now I'm forced to interact. It's gross. They got me. I'm excited though. It's gonna be good
anyway. Okay. All right. Great. We're starting off with love. And I love that, right? Love for us, okay? Love for everyone. No one's upset at anyone just yet. We'll see. Let's go to our friend Water Kai. Kai, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Yeah, nobody's triggered yet. Everything's gonna be cool. We're gonna have a good night.
We're working on it. See, look, who could ever be mad at Smooth, right? Look at that, his smiling face. All right, like that's a good guy right here. All right, so except for me that one time when I was like unbelievably pissed at Smooth, but like Matt, like who could ever hate this guy? So Smooth, thank you for being here. All right, thanks for bringing the smile. All right, much appreciated, buddy. And great. I'm loving what you're saying. Sounds brilliant, whatever it might be. As soon as you're unmuted, I'm sure we can all.
Apps. Yo, can y'all hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. So okay, I'm not even gonna get into that.
Just say it again.
So listen. I'm just happy to be here. You know what I'm saying? I rushed through my workout to get here. You know what I'm saying? I ran up here. I was like, I gotta get on ABE. But yeah, man. I look forward to this, man. I honestly have a good time here with these guys, man. This is gonna be a good one.
Okay. Thank you, Rage Pope. Hello, hi. Nice to meet you. Thank you for the kind raid with 26 individuals. Hello, everyone who all came in. My name is Prime. We do this debate panel type thing. We're actually just getting started, so you haven't really missed anything. So sit back, relax, and hit that follow button if you like what you see, right? We talk about all kinds of controversial topics here. So you might find something you like. Hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. Again, thank you, Rage Pope, and thanks so much for choosing us. Let's go to Isle. Isle, please introduce yourself. We haven't seen you here in a little bit. We're glad to have you.
I'm Isle of Isles, surprising star in the YouTube chat. And on the YouTube comments, people always say that I'm based, so I read those. Pretty cool. Anyway, you know, I've been like geeking out today of all days because like recently, well, this week because Tuesday was the second round of primaries for New York. I was working as a poll worker for there. And then two games came out this week that I was really looking forward to. One is the indie game. I was a teenage exocolonist. It's pretty cool. And Saints Row came out, the new one. And I haven't seen any gameplay of it yet or any Let's Plays, but I'm hoping it's really good. I've heard some rumblings that it might be woke, but I'm going to completely ignore that because Saints Row has a special place in my heart. And you know, me and my father grew up playing with those. Well, I grew up watching my father play those games, and I played with him. So I'm really excited for what the new Saints Row is, and so I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for the life update. So let's jump into it. I think we have some great topics, and again, shout out to my man Fanatic who helped me come up with this. By help me, I mean he just told me this is what we talked about tonight. All right. Topic 1. In one of California's largest race bias cases, Latin workers are accused of abusing their black colleagues. Black laborers were subjected to daily vicious attacks, including slurs and racist caricatures. America's history of racial lawsuits has usually targeted white perpetrators. But does black and brown solidarity actually exist? Are we actually all in this together? Or is this a hopeful fiction that is pushed by those on the left who naively believe that other minority groups have our best interests at heart? So yeah, this is a great, extensive article from the LA Times. I'm going to put this in the chat so everyone can take a look at it. About this massive like class action lawsuit against, like it was multiple lawsuits, I think, from black laborers to these white, or to these, not white companies, these companies that were ignoring and sometimes help perpetuating this like, racial bias against their black coworkers, right? So you had these companies that are dominated by like Latin individuals, right? So like, and this is like a blue collar job, like working in warehouses. And it's mostly Latin individuals because they just make up a large portion of that population. And then you have some black people there, but like this treatment, which is utterly vicious, right? Either from their colleagues or from their supervisors as well. So yeah, we'll talk about that and like what this means when we talk about black and brown solidarity. Is that a thing, right? So hey, I gotta say, someone is making a sad sound. No, I don't know.
Is it my brush? Was it me brushing my hair?
me?
No, it wasn't you brushing your hair. I can assure you.
Oh, okay.
But it just stopped. So it comes in and out. So we'll have to figure out what that static is. But okay, we'll start with Bam.
Or POC, you know, all in this together. No, I mean that it seems to be like pretty true, and I don't think anybody up here will make that argument. So hopefully we don't have to dig too deep into that. We can go a little deeper. If like as far as like basic surface level politics, do minorities tend to predominantly vote the same way? Yes, black people to a higher degree, but like as far as like solidarity between communities, no, I don't think that's ever been like a super widespread thing, and I don't think we'll be able to point to any like massive movements throughout American history where that seems to be the case.
Okay. We'll go to Fanatic.
Yep. I totally agree with Bam. I think this whole like dream of like this coalition, it's just always been there. They always say it, but it just never has actually panned out. And any person who's actually ever lived around Hispanics or lived with Hispanics, yeah, they got some hatred. They got some contempt for us. I don't know where it comes from, but they're always trying to claim stuff that we create. And be like, oh, we were the first ones to create hip hop. We came up with baggy pants. We invented lowriders. We're the ones that made the oldies. There's always just something that they're like we did it. And yeah, I think this stuff has been long standing. I can't wait to get into certain parts of my grandmother. Very loving lady. really, really good Christian, but she had some anti-Mexican sentiments in there, and I understand. She had some anti-white ones too, but of course those ones make sense.
I didn't say it. Like, save your angry tweets for someone else. Okay, not me. All right, so let's go to Waterkite.
Well, considering that Black people still make up the highest ratio of people that receive hate crimes, and they're also coming from our brown brothers and sisters, I can say with firsthand experience and my personal scars that no, we're not in this together, but I would love for us to be. I'm done on that.
Okay. Hey, Taj, we got some background noise. We could mute yourself, buddy.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
probably a fan. Let's go to Smooth, please.
Okay, so I just want to say, as a California resident, I've been living here for the last like 7 years actually. I've been living here for the last 7 years. I can confirm this is actually true. Like it's not. There's no togetherness at all. Like I agree with Bam and Fanatic. There's no togetherness. This coalition does not exist. I have not seen it. Um, if Hispanics pass for white enough, they will literally vote as if they're white. It's mind blowing to me. I'm like, bro, they know you're not white. They will. You're next. You're literally next. You're just not brown enough yet, but you're next. Like it is what it is. I don't know why it's that way, but it is. I wish these guys the best of luck in their case. So
Okay. And next we have Isle.
No, everyone walks the lonely road of life to, by themselves. But I think that when there's a common enemy, people of all stripes can come together to make big changes. I think that's why they say politics makes strange bedfellows. So I think that, it could be a big rainbow coalition in the future if something really of note was necessary for that to happen. But I don't think we should count on like other racial groups to like have our back, just automatically just because there's some left wing, like, I guess, rainbow coalition propaganda narrative. I don't know. But I wish the people in California have a good lawsuit. They have good lawyers that can represent their case, and there are people in California that can see what's really going on and give people the restitution they deserve.
Okay. And if you mute yourself, Isle, we got some background noise from you. Thank you. Let's go to our friend Taj, who just like the nick of time. We're just starting here. So he planned it all just like that. So our good friend Taj, we're always very, very happy to have around. Taj, you can introduce yourself, and then we're on the first topic with the Black and Brown solidarity.
Yes, like with that one medical company, right? Yeah. Hey, my name's Taj Benjan, from the YouTube channel Taji Politics and in the Twitch channel Bars and Joysticks. Yeah. So my take on this is that it's a really unfortunate thing. I think that when we think about Latinos and Hispanics and Asians and even Black people in America, these aren't just like monoliths, right? Like different groups will like react to Blackness in different ways, and unfortunately, a lot of groups like react to Blackness of just dark skin in general in really colorist, really fucked up ways. This doesn't mean that like Black people and brown people of any color, ethnicity can't work together. I think that saying that we can't work together is absolute bullshit. But I do think that what's happening in California with that company, it's just, I think it's also kind of like a consequence of white supremacy in general. I think we can make it through, like how Jada Kiss and Styles P said, we gonna make it. And I'm looking forward to discussing this topic with everybody here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go because there's been most of the panel is on the other side, right? The wrong side as usual. So yeah, you're absolutely incorrect if you don't think Black and brown solidarity is a thing. In fact, we have a long history of this happened. Now, you didn't learn that history, all right? Don't worry, I'll educate you on that history. But this has been a long history where especially like during the civil rights struggle, we had Latin people working hand in hand with the Black civil rights movement. Like we've had great periods of this, and it's weird. So like we have an area, right? This isn't the Inland Empire, that area within California, which has like a pretty badass name. But it's called the Inland Empire, which is where these like warehouses were located. We have an incident. It's a pretty bad incident of racism, and somehow this morphs as some sort of example of how like these things, solidarity between these groups doesn't exist. It absolutely does. But I think Taj had the best point. Talking about like how like different groups, because the Latin group is like it's so diffuse that like talking about it as a group is not even useful, right? Like we actually do ourselves a disservice when we do so. These people come from so many different cultures, so many different backgrounds, and in some places, well, you absolutely have a lot more anti-Black racism than others. Absolutely. But I'll start
Can
there.
we
But
stop
there's
there?
more.
Which
Why is that?
Latin place doesn't have anti-Black racism? Can you name
Which
that place for me?
country anywhere doesn't have anti-Black racism?
Oh, okay. So as long as we're
Right.
sure then that we can say that in literally every single Latin culture there is anti-Black racism.
And
So
every
this
single
is
white one, an Asian one, all of them,
sure,
yeah.
of course.
Okay.
So
And
then
Black
okay,
There's
cultures,
anti-Black
yeah.
I
racism
got
in
you. So
Africa,
then,
dog.
yeah. Hey, listen, I don't have to listen. You're the one trying to prove that there is a coalition. I'm saying that the presence of such anti-Black racism is indication that there isn't this coalition, that we do not have the same solidarity that we're talking about here. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it seems
I
like so
don't
then
look.
that means that the evidence is on
It
my
sounds like a
side.
scary talking point, man.
I have the evidence on my side too.
So-
But like, I'm gonna let other people go. I've talked a lot. I'm gonna let other people go. Then I'll circle back.
I don't believe Hispanics are the enemy. Like it's just really, I wouldn't go that far. Like it's just like, oh, we're just two different groups. We just exist in America. Like even you saying that there was a large Spanish hand in the civil rights movement. Like the civil rights movement was pre Hart-Celler Act. Like there weren't even that many like Hispanic
Right.
people in the United States.
For sure. And at the time, Hispanic people were literally asking to be called white. They didn't start asking to be considered people of color until after we made all the progress with the civil rights movement. Once you had color-based representation and progress, then they were like, hey, wait, we're people of color too. Consider us too. Because originally they wanted to distance themselves from us and say that they were specifically white. They fought for that.
It was trying to pull
They-
that Italian.
Yeah, they
move.
wanted them
Trying to
grants.
get that
They
white.
want They wanted that extra
100%.
little
The
money.
same way Italians got their whiteness, and they weren't like later on added as people of color. They're like, no, we're white. And they recognize that when you get that whiteness, considering the history of this country, all of these benefits came with that. And at the time, before the civil rights movement, there were all of the deeds and the housings and things like that were literally segregated based on race. They said, if you were white, you can do this. You can't sell this home to any person that's not white. So that all of these things, freaking the redlining and things that had been happening around that time, right? Like those things were still literally saying based on whiteness. So they wanted to be white, and it wasn't until we made progress that they were like, you know what? Maybe this people of color thing might work out. It might pan out for them. And then they started claiming to be people of color. And then as soon as they started recognizing, like, doesn't seem like it's really working out fully. There's more benefits still to being white. They were like, oh no, we're white again, and give us that.
Yeah,
go ahead,
and as a
Yeah, of course. Like,
Let's move go
Yeah,
first.
Smooth been
and
trying to
then-
get in.
Let's move go first because been trying to get in. Then we'll go to Taj, and then we'll let
Oh,
our friend
sorry.
Jishu Gambit in. No problem. Smooth, please.
So I'm gonna say this. Like, look, as when I was a kid living in California, because my parents are split a long time ago. Doesn't matter. Listen, as a kid, there was like I seen somebody say it in the chat, which brought it to my memory. Like, literally, gangs was divided like that. Like even in school, like you couldn't even hang out with other ethnicities like that, just based off the gangs. Like there was literally a Hispanic gang, and then there was the Black gang. That's literally how it was, and there was literally whole riots and fights and all of that.
We
Like,
had
I-
race
I
riots
have-
in my junior
I
high.
have- Huh?
We had race riots in my junior high too.
Yeah,
in high
like,
school.
There were people literally I know that died going to that high school that was in the high desert. Like, you can just look up that high school. I forget the name of the high school in the high desert, but look up Adelanto, the high school up there. There were multiple years of just race violence. Like, all the black people had to stick together and all the Hispanics had to stick together because they were literally just killing each other just because they were Hispanic and just because they were black. If you were white, or you were like, yeah, if you were white, you were good. Like, they didn't bother you. Like, you literally, if you were Hispanic or black, it was just on site for no reason.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
So
it's just-
Taj, you can respond, and then GSU. Please go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of just how deep white supremacy goes. It's like a crab in a barrel effect. Like, you can divide this across like multiple different types of like demographics and schemes, right? You can like do this across class lines or sex lines or sexuality lines. Like, it's such a fucked up situation where like these are crabs in like we're crabs in a bucket, all right? Like, that barrel that we're in together, that bucket, that's white supremacy, dog. It's not like, oh, Hispanic people can never be black people's allies. That's insane. That's crazy. Like, Hispanic people are part black. They're inherently part black. Of course, when all the incentive for you to cling on to white supremacy is there, of course it's going to become the low-hanging fruit that you're going to grab, that a lot of people are going to grab onto. Like, you can see this across different groups. Like, Asian people do this. Like, FBA people do this in different crazy ways. So of course, like, a lot of Hispanic people will be all like, oh yeah, I'm white. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, your life gets a lot easier when you're fucking white. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's pretty much the point I'm making. It's not like, oh yeah, these people don't consider themselves people of color. It's just that, like, no,
They don't.
They're like,
They literally
aren't
put on
they're
their
not a fucking
census-
monolith. There are a
on
lot
the
of motherfuckers in Mexico that look just like us. Like,
But on the
yo,
majority
like,
of their census, they fill out white. Majority of.
yeah, but why is that? Like,
So,
ancestrally, they
hold
come
on.
from a place that's been like colonized by
God,
white
are you
supremacy. Of
kidding
course,
me?
they're gonna do this.
What?
I think it's here's
I mean,
the
that just
difference.
proves they're not a
Like, all
coalition.
the stuff in
Why?
America,
You're trying to
California
go
used
to
be
the
part of
why.
Mexico, and like America manifests destiny, that shit. Of course.
But you're,
Like, of
you're
course
trying to
the
go to
motherfuckers
the
are gonna
why, and I'm going to the fact, right? Like, I'm saying this is what they're doing. Now, if you want to say there's a reason why they're
we're talking
doing it,
different
I'm
things, I
open
guess.
to that. Like, that's fine. But the fact of
Okay.
the matter is, they don't consider themselves to be black. They don't consider themselves to be black. The vast majority of them, like, yes, Afro Latino is a thing, and they literally demonize the Afro Latinos and specifically say, like, in the Dominican and stuff, they literally
no
will
black,
talk about
Poppy?
the fact that they will honestly they will specifically seek out white people or very light people to have children with, so as to distance their blackness, right? Like, so, like, this isn't like you can claim that they're white, but they don't claim that they're. I mean, you can claim that they're black, but they don't claim that they're black. And hell, they'll tell you, no, we're European. Like, our ancestors are European. We are not black. Mexicans do that all day. What are we talking
Oh my
about?
God.
And we're just talking
I'm
about
gonna-
ethnicity.
I'm gonna go to GSU, then I gotta jump in because, like, this is fucking killing me. These terrible talking points are fucking killing me.
Yeah.
But GSU, I hope you do better, right? My man GSU is here. Glad to have him. GSU, you're on my side, of course, right? Because you're a smart guy, right? So, GSU, go ahead.
I don't know, Prime.
Oh no.
One of the dumbest phrases I found out about in like the last 4 years was like Pan-Africanism. And it was because it was this idea that anyone that's descendants come from Africa or like some sort of group that was moving together to like greater cause of all those people. And like when I was young, like, and it's kind of funny because a lot of what Smooth, I was listening to Smooth before I joined. There were a lot of like migrant Hispanics that used to come to my hometown, and everybody was cool. And it set up this false thought in my mind that there was this like ambiance between our like communities at a deeper level than just like friendship. But one of my friends actually moved to California while we were very, very young. And exactly what Smooth and Fanatic were saying, where like he literally couldn't go around Hispanic people because they all had rival gangs that used to fight each other. So it like opened my eyes to, wow, I thought like because this thing was local here in Georgia, I thought that was how it was everywhere. And I found out it wasn't. And I think as I've gotten older, I've only seen more and more that there just doesn't appear to be any sort of like bromance or whatever we want to call it between like different African diaspora. So I don't know. I don't think it's real. I think that like locally, like you can have like a bunch of people that you vibe with, and then y'all can be all on the same page. But from this like large political movement front that the Democratic Party does with labels like people of color, I don't think it actually exists. And I don't think there's anything to suggest that it does.
Okay, so
I
I'm going to
think
respond.
Pan-Africanism. Oh, sorry.
No problem, no problem. I gotta respond because this has been killing me, right? These terrible of dog shit arguments. So as has already been pointed out, and as I started off, right, when I gave my little intro, the term Latin is so vague as this to be unuseful, and we can see it happening right now in this conversation. It actually makes it harder because when we're talking about the Latin race, like some people think of it, right? When we're talking about this Latin group, they come from so many different countries, right? And then within those countries, they have so many ethnic origins, right? Different ethnic backgrounds. And then they come here to the States, and then we lump them all as Latin. We just do that because America's obsessive race, and that's how we just decided to categorize them. We have individuals there who are Native American within the Latin community, who are of Native American background. We have individuals there who are of African background, brought over as slave in the slavery trade, and we have individuals who are white, right? Oh, also we have like a huge Japanese group of individuals, like in Brazil. It's like the biggest diaspora of like Japanese individuals. It happens to be in Brazil. It's a fun fact. But that's a lot of people who are from different backgrounds. And then you say, well, they come here and they write down when they're white. Yeah, of course, because some of them have European roots, right? And that's what they identify with, even within their own countries. They don't subscribe to our racial labels, right? Eventually, they you see this happen in Asian communities too, right? Now, no one here considers Asian people to be white, but when Asians come through, right, the first immigrants, they'll put down white. They'll look at their skin, like, yeah, that looks white to me, and they'll put white down. But that's
not
what they mean.
For this. Be careful.
No, that's obviously not what we mean. And eventually, they get on the program, right? They understand. Oh, they don't mean me. Oh, I'm part of some other group. So when we're talking about this black and brown solidarity, yes, there's going to be anti-black racism within these groups, but there's such a huge history of us working together. And I'll stop there. I will get to that history, but I've talked enough, so I want people to be able to respond to me. But go ahead.
I think that two things. One, to Gambit's point, and I'll even go after it because I feel like I've said a lot. But to Gambit's point, I think that I think that Pan-Africanism is a worthy cause. I'm not a Pan-Africanist, but I think that there is a worthy cause to fight for the idea that black people can globally have some similar interests, even if we don't share every interest from that group. So I think we can still be separated by sex and have an overarching, like, you know what, there's a universal things that black people could benefit from. So I don't think that Pan-Africanism is a bad idea, even though I don't necessarily personally.
It's a terrible idea.
I don't like it.
But to Prime's point, like you say that I completely agree that there's like we're grouping together a lot of people, but I want to. My issue is, even if you break it down to be hyper specific, I want to know what are the groups? What are the good examples? Oh, this group of Hispanic people have had like a long history of being
absolutely. I got you right here. I got this. If you want to toss it back to me, then I'll go over that history that I keep talking about.
I'm
okay?
super. But it's also factoring in the fact that like being from the South, being from Georgia, there's not like the South doesn't have a large and I don't count Texas. The South is in like the Southeast. Doesn't have a really large Hispanic population like this intermixed.
Unless you go to Florida,
the same way that you go to the West Coast.
That's kind of why most of this conversation we end up talking about California, because most people that have been in California, you experience the division and the hatred that you're getting for
Mhm.
no reason whatsoever. I'm sure there was a point, especially during civil rights, when they had something to gain, that they were more than willing to throw their hat in with us. But once they got what they needed, especially when a lot of them ended up being middle class, they don't identify with that anymore.
So
Yeah,
okay,
'cause
so
it was-
let me
it's-
bring in that
just let Prime
history.
answer my
right?
question.
Okay.
Yeah. So during the civil rights era, right, we had a lot of groups working together. We have Cesar Chavez, right? Cesar Chavez is a labor rights organizer and civil rights activist for Latin individuals. He created something called the National Farm Workers Association, and he was organizing individuals for the same labor struggles that you saw happening in the Black community. And in fact, him and his partner, Dolores Herrera, you see them with Coretta Scott King and with Dr. King. There's pictures, so many pictures of them working
The
together, going to
60s.
church together, and like being part of the struggle, right? Then we talk about like the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers reached out to the Young Lords, which were mostly
40s?
Puerto Rican individuals, and the Brown Berets, which were mostly Chicano. And I don't actually know the difference, like what Chicano is. I'm not exactly positive, but still, it's a Latin group, right? Of individuals who worked together with a solidarity. They found a common cause and they worked together. We have
That's the 40s,
especially when we
50s, and
talk.
60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, hon. Okay, I'll.
I don't think these are bad examples.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
not
Means you have a
discounting them.
deep heritage in this happening with us. Yeah.
Because I interjected, Prime. The only reason I interjected with that is because Fanatic and Bam both said that they were more of a brotherhood before civil rights passing. So that's the only
Sure.
reason I'm calling out to that. Like
Sure,
fits
sure,
the
sure.
entire narrative.
So we have talking about the present day. We have this group called LULAC, LULAC, a Latin group working with the NAACP to work together, fighting racist textbook standards that were implemented in 2010, right? Because these things affected both communities. These where like their histories were being erased, right? So yeah, these groups work together, pushing back. Sorry, someone mute themselves because that's Isle. I'm gonna have to mute you. Oh my god. You gotta put yourself on push to talk. Gotta push to talk. It's like
Bro, is that
a
a
lot
dinosaur?
of static. Oh shit. But yeah, so you have these groups working together, and and also for in terms of immigration, because for immigrants, Black immigrants, and for Latin immigrants, we've already seen this. We've seen how they've been crushed by the U.S. Government in terms of sending people back. Right? We have groups working together on that as well. So like it happens all the time. But are you saying that if you're saying that Black and brown solidarity doesn't exist because individuals can be racist, well then there's no solidarity ever for anyone. Like that word doesn't exist because you'll find people who belong to different groups who are going to be racist.
Please let me go. Please let me go, Smooth. So
Prime Praise was a good example.
No. Listen. So Prime, I looked up the LULAC group, right?
Huh?
Nothing on their site mentions people of color, brown, Black solidarity. None of the stuff that you mentioned is even marketed on their site. So like when you go,
I'll send you.
I know. But this is what I'm talking. We're not saying that one individual person being racist means that there's not solidarity. What we're saying is that there seems to be no infrastructure or organization or any of those words that exist that are dedicating themselves to some sort of joint cause. That doesn't. So it might be true that somebody showed up somewhere and said, "Hey, I'm going to support you," but that doesn't seem to be at an organized level.
Hold on. So are you saying okay? So basically, you're saying you're specifically looking for a group that includes both groups rather than like. So I gave you examples are different groups, right? Like who serve different communities. Who examples of them working together as solidarity.
To be clear, what I'm looking for is a group that doesn't involve Black people. Well, ADOS, whatever the hell word we want to use for us, that doesn't involve us, that involves another people of color group that is advocating on our behalf. That's what I don't think exists. And that's what true allyship would be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I would
because
say I would
because
point.
when I look at like BLM movement, right? Like I didn't see them like caping for us. I seen a lot of them just lean into their conservatism, like, oh, he shouldn't have did that. He shouldn't have been out there like that. I wouldn't have done that.
Yep.
Oh, I don't
Let's
know.
talk
I
about
don't
the
know.
fact.
I don't know.
This
I
is
can't
all
speak on that.
anecdotal,
I'm
but I've
like,
seen
what?
both sides of that.
Well, hold on, but
Yeah, I was
let's
gonna
talk
say George
about how
Floyd was
many
pretty
of these
global.
like like how many of these white nationalist movements are literally ran by Hispanic men, right? Like how much of that are we going to say before we finally start recognizing like, there seems like there might be a bit of an issue here, or we can talk about the fact that the what's it called it's the guy
Yeah, those Hispanic
the League of
white, bro.
United Latin American Citizens, right? Like the president of that thing. He was the one that made the statement, let the Negro fight his own battles. His problems are not mine. I don't want to ally with him. That was the leader, right? Okay, so that was the president of LULAC, right? So when we start talking about this anti-blackness, and you can say, "Oh, they were working together," and da 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 da, it's like, no, they were not. There was always this antagonism. There has been this issue for God knows how long, and it's continuing today. In fact, right now, the reason why why Latino is trending on Twitter right now is because of the actual attacks, the physical attacks that are happening as they literally declared war on black men. Like a few gangs have done that recently, and so there's been these physical attacks that have been happening, and now we have videos of that. Then we can also talk about the fact that there was all of that recent nonsense over Tyga. Tyga recently, he's not non-FBA nigga, that recently did a video in which he was like, he wore like a sombrero or something like that. And they said, oh, these dudes making fun of our culture, so on and so forth. And then at that point is when those people started like demanding an apology from him. But then all the evidence came out of all these different leaders in the Hispanic community, radio hosts and whatnot, all of Power 106, all of them niggas, they were like spewing some of the most vile anti-black hatred ever. And it's like, wait, y'all are trying to hold us accountable, but you guys are out here spewing out the same nonsense. I mean, not the same. You guys have always been vile and anti-black. And so we're seeing this stuff happening so frequently. I don't know how the freak we're going to continue to be under this, like under the guise that like people that there is this alliance when it's very obvious that there hasn't been for God knows how long.
Okay, so I have an example. So I have a New York Times article talking about the BLM protests, talking about I just did a search for like Latinos for BLM, and what came up was Latinos back Black Lives Matter protests. They want change for themselves too, because they talk about like how their struggles are the same. And we have the head of a Latino civil rights group, Magente, Mijente. I'll put this article in the group DM. And she is saying, Marissa Franco, we've always known that police brutality is a black and brown issue, a poor people's issue. Right now, it is imperative for non-black Latino communities to both empathize with black people and also recognize that it is in our material interest to fundamentally change policing in this country. Is that good enough for you, GSU? So I'll put the article in so you can take a look at it as well. But is that
she can make the statement that it's good for us to fundamentally change this thing.
No. Before no, you're going for different standards. Before that, GSU asked for something very specific. So I'm trying to get this out of him.
Okay. No, I'll read your link. I'm sorry. I momentarily was looking at something. I wasn't listening. I'm reading through the link right now, and I'll let you know.
Look for Magente, Mijente, I think, in the link, and that's where I got the quote that I just read. So you can look at that. All right, go ahead, Taj.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is anecdotal. Like we can all find instances of people in our own cities that are Latino that fight for black causes. We can find instances of people that are Latino and where
I mentioned the president of LULAC. What?
That's
not an
anecdote. That's an anecdote, by the way.
That's an
anecdote. But I was responding to Prime.
No, it's not. Okay, I don't think you know what anecdote means, but we'll just move past it. We'll just move past it. Move past it. It's okay. It's okay. We'll move past that. It's okay. It's an anecdote, sure.
Okay. No, I was responding to Prime. Man. All right. So So Prime mentioned like an anecdote of like a Hispanic person that's like openly pro-black, right? Like we can find many instances in anecdotes of these things. Like for example, the Vanessa Guillen protests. Like if you guys remember what that was, like 2020. Like a lot of that like used like a lot of anti-black rhetoric on that side. It was like, oh, Vanessa Guillen, she's a part of the military, and she wasn't like a rapist, baby murderer, killer like George Floyd. Blah blah blah. I heard an organizer for the Vanessa Guillen protest say that. So I can like talk about anecdotes like for black people and against black people from the Latino community. what I'm saying is that like we're all fighting against white supremacy in our own ways, right? I think that it's more likely and it's like more productive for Black and Latino to like have a coalition versus like just a separation and some sort of like big division. That's my thought.
Okay, let me ask y'all a question here, okay? Because we found these anecdotes of, you know what I'm saying, of Hispanic people saying this and that, whatever. Pro and against. I don't see Black people going to other groups saying, you know what, F you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, F your struggle. Like, I do not see that. I've never seen Black people look at another person's struggle.
I can find something in the
like,
span
but
of 5 minutes.
No, I'm saying by and large, we do not do that. We do not. That is a rarity for us to look at somebody else's struggle and not have compassion. They literally look at us and don't have any compassion, any empathy. Like,
Wow.
and by like that's a large thing that
I don't
happens.
think that's
No,
true.
it's a large thing
That's
that
so
happens
racist.
in
That's so
California.
racist.
No, it's a large thing that happens in
I
California.
think historically that's
No,
been the
I'm
case.
telling you what happens in
I
California.
can find
and why these
anecdotes. I can find
clubhouse
another
voices are like
anecdote
that.
for you if you want.
So yeah, I remember when
That's an
y'all
anecdote.
remember when Jennifer
That's an
Lopez
anecdote.
was trending about. Remember when Jennifer Lopez was trending about a month ago because what's it called? That company, what's it? I forget what the name of the company was. But
I can't remember either. Yeah.
They decided to promise $100 million in business loans towards Black women, and her first thing was to sit there and say well, what about Latinas, right? Whereas she went and worked with the exact same company and did something specifically for Latin women. That's what she used her power to do. And it's like, or the fact that you have like I said, Hispanic leaders making statements like Black people can't get reparations before Hispanics do, right? We were the first people in this country, and so on and so forth, right? So like it does seem like there is lots of outspoken antagonism towards Black progress. And then again, when you start finding out that the leaders of some of these communities, like specifically what's it when the leaders of I can't think of the name of the community right now. The white nationalist community. What's the
Proud
Proud
Boys?
Boys? Right.
Yeah.
When you start having those kinds of things, or you start finding out how many
America
white
First?
people, right, and America First, right?
Oh,
Nick
Tario,
Fuentes and
okay.
all of those, right? So you got all of these people, these anti-Black, white supremacist Latino people. And then we're supposed to pretend that there's some sort of coalition when, again, for the vast majority of our struggles, there has not been this like blending. There has been rampant anti-Blackness in hiring practices. Obviously, when the three largest suits in the largest state in the entire union, the most populous state in the entire union is saying that there's large rampant anti-Blackness coming specifically from Hispanics, right? With the largest Latin community in the country. I don't know what the freak we're talking about. How are we even denying this? It's rampant. I don't know how we could say otherwise.
Prime, I will say
I
that
rest my
the
case.
group-
Thank y'all.
Yeah, Prime, I will say the
that's an
group
anecdote.
that
But
the group meets my definition of what I asked you for.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So you going to say
Yeah,
something,
so-
Todd?
yeah, I'm curious what everyone's solution to this is.
I feel like the solution to this and the
Oh
solution to all
God,
these
he's
problems is
smiling.
always no. It's the simplest solution. We need to go ahead and forgive student loan for Black folks. We need to make sure that we do a comprehensive a reparations plan that involves free education, forgiven student loans, mortgage forgiveness, interest-free mortgages, and and capital specifically earmarked for Black businesses, so as Black people can actually start getting economically to the same level as everybody else, so that we can finally catch up. And then once that's there, it doesn't matter if you have your terrible opinions about Black people. It doesn't matter, because we'll have the economic ability to be able to fend for ourselves, to be able to contend with the rest of white America and everybody else that's trying to be like lumped in there with whiteness. So then that way, all of these disparities in opinion can just disappear when we're financially able to do for ourselves. That's the actual solution. That's the only solution that's going to work.
I don't think of it as
anti-Black.
Yeah, I don't think of it as a solution-based thing. Like I think it's just super understandable that, like, okay, a different group of people with different interests aren't necessarily going to be aligned on everything. Like I said, I don't think that I don't see the Hispanic community as generally like, oh, the enemy standing in the way of Black liberation. as something that needs to be solved. Like, oh, we have to gather together because we see generally when we vote, they do, like I said, they in to me the most important political effort people can make. Other minorities seem to vote in a way that's most
that's
useful to Black people right now.
But that's changing already. Number one, because you already see in the state of Florida, like I think the vast majority of Cubans there are Republicans. They're already discovering now in the state of Texas that a large amount of Hispanics are actually starting to
I
vote
fucks with that.
Republican,
I'm cool with
right?
that.
So, like, it's
But
not
every
just a
state still would have
given.
been blue. Still been blue.
Well,
Based on
they're saying this since the 2016 election that they're finding that the majority of Hispanics are starting in Texas and are starting to vote whatever. Now, again, making the argument that every state would still be blue has nothing to do with your original wrong statement that I just corrected. You said that the majority of Hispanic people. You said that the majority of Hispanic people still vote the same way in the elections, and you're just wrong, as I'm pointing out to you.
No, you pointed out
moving
states. I said the
moving the
majority.
goalposts to
You're talking about the majority of the population, where Fanatic is talking about the actual people that you're trying to represent. So you can't say Texas is blue in a conversation where you're arguing that the Latin people in Texas are voting Democratic. Those are two different worlds.
But they are. No, they still are. I think I would have to see that about Texas. I think even in Texas, it's still like 70%. Like the number is dropped, but I think they're like still 70% vote blue, which would still be the majority. Again, I think that Black people are we're like in the 90 percentile. I don't think that's like I'm not expecting that from other groups. I'm not expecting other groups to be Black people. I'm just saying that
but you're calling all of us Black. It's kind of funny.
I'm calling everyone Black.
No, you're calling those groups Black too, but then you're saying you don't expect them to vote like Black people.
When did I call them Black? I don't remember saying that at all. I'm literally saying there were two separate groups. Maybe I
misheard you earlier. No,
yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that I'm saying that this isn't something that needs to be solved. They're not the face of white supremacy standing in the way of Black liberation. Like I said, are there problems with groups? Sure, but I was just, my position is based on the conversation. The topic of the room is like, is there a coalition? No, there's not a coalition, but that doesn't make them that doesn't make you my enemy.
Yeah, it's crazy because George Bush collected 49% of the Hispanic vote for the presidency, like in Texas. So
what was the other 51?
Huh?
So what was the other 51?
51. So okay, that was back in whatever. Again, what I'm saying is, since this last election, and I'll look for the source again. It's that they ran polls and that it found that the majority of Hispanics in Texas were now were Republicans. They were more conservative. That's what they have actually been voting for. And Democrats have been running largely on immigration and nonsense, thinking that's going to get them the Hispanic vote. And unfortunately, it doesn't, because Hispanics don't care about immigration. That's not on their priority.
That still seems to be true.
Again, that's certain groups. When you say Hispanics don't care about this, right? Who the fuck are you talking about? There are certain groups who like.
We're talking about the largest, the general. We're talking about
but that's not helpful. That's not helpful when you do that.
Very helpful.
It's not, because there are different groups. Hold on. There are different groups that are facing different pressures. You got fucking Cubans who are welcomed here, right? You would consider Cubans to be Latin, correct? Before I go down any farther?
Sure, of course.
Okay, great. Cubans who have been welcomed by the U.S. government for political reasons, who have been welcomed, and they're like, I got mine, so I'm not worried about immigration, right? Like, and you'll hear Cubans talk bad, like say terrible things about other Latin individuals who do have to worry about that. So if you're looking within a Mexican groups, they'll have immigration be more salient to them because they know more individuals within their family members who are dealing with that, who may be undocumented, right? Like in these different groups, and like, you know, again, it changes from.
I think even in those groups in Texas,
these different groups, then you'll find different attitudes. Absolutely. So when you're just saying Latin people in general, it's actually not helpful at all. This term hurts.
Yeah, but hold on, wait. I mean, we got to be able to have a conversation, right? But I think even in those groups, Brian, if we look at how they vote in border states, right, isn't it? And I'll have to look this up, but I think they vote more conservatively because a lot of people that get here are against illegal immigration more so than a traditional Democrat. For sure, without question. I can look it up. I should look it up.
Yeah, a lot of
believe you.
Hispanic people that move here legally hate illegals. They just fucking
Yeah,
hate
for
those
sure.
cats.
Yeah, without a question.
There's
got
a lot of
Cubans.
infighting in the Hispanic community and Latino community.
No, but I don't
Latino-
think it's
Cubans
just
don't like
Cubans.
Dominicans.
I think the Hispanic community is the most likely to be
Caribbean
pro-choice.
folks don't like land folks. Yeah,
Would that be because they're
there's a lot
Catholic?
of division in there.
Wait,
Yeah.
pro-choice? Or I
Yeah,
thought they were
no.
pro-life. I thought
Yeah,
Hispanics were
you would
They
think
tend
the
to be
opposite.
pro-life.
No,
Very pro-life. Very pro-life.
I had a fight on this. A poll came out. Hispanics are actually the most likely in the country to be pro-choice. It's crazy. I assumed it was gonna. I don't know who. I actually assumed it would be white people, not black
No
people.
shot. No shot.
Yeah, I'll find the poll.
No, I'll find the poll.
Okay, but yeah, like that's why we have to have a level of specificity there. It's different for these different groups. Yeah. And so like you will have places that just have
Bama's
a history.
Bama was right.
Jesus.
Always right.
Oh, let's take a
because
minute.
religion
Wait,
is finally
wait,
dying.
Don't say all
Good job, guys.
For the love of God.
Wait. I think this deserves at least 10 seconds. Everybody
Really?
good? All right, 1, 2, 3,
I hate
4,
y'all niggas.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, cool.
Oh, don't
This
worry.
may
It'll
never
never
happen
happen
again.
again. It'll not happen.
May
So we
never
will.
happen again. So yeah.
No, but I
yeah,
believe that. I believe that stat. That stat's
Yeah,
believable.
but
that
you-
they're
but-
mostly pro-choice.
but you guys hear that, right? Like Cubans tend to be more conservative than other groups, right? Like you guys believe on that one? You understand that one, right? Like they
Sure.
vote
Yeah.
Republicans.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
more conservative. They have more conservative views in general. And then when it comes to immigration, again, their group is good. Cubans are welcome here, right? We have politicians fighting over Cubans and who is more pro-Cubans just because they happen to live in Florida, and Florida is a swing state. And to win the presidential election, oftentimes you got to win Florida. So because they get all that political attention, they ain't worried about immigration. That's not their struggle, right? That's those people over there. Those are Mexicans, and we ain't down with those Mexicans. So I'm saying we gotta have some specificity.
Well, sure. I mean, I think you can find you can find disparities, right? Because you can find that maybe blacks in the South that might have different opinions than blacks in the North or whatever. But when you're trying to have like conversations about large groups of populations, you're going to probably need to get into some more. You're going to be speaking more broadly. Like
I
don't think
hear
there's anything wrong
you,
with being
but like
general.
I'm saying that specifically this group, specifically well, actually to a certain extent, Asians as well. But the problem is there's so little Asians, and like they tend like the biggest population is going to be like from China and Japan, right? So it's a bit different there. But specific for Latin, there's so many of them here, and they come from so many different areas that it actually does make a difference. When we're talking about political advertising, right, targeting those individuals, how like politicians approach them. Politicians have generally just taken a one-size-fits-all
They
approach.
call them
But-
Latinx.
yeah, exactly. They'll say some nonsense like that. No,
They
right.
didn't even ask
You
for
hear
that.
you. Yeah, exactly. So, but they're finding that like that doesn't work. We have to speak to different populations, and they come from different countries. So I feel like you know this is correct, right?
No, I'm not disagreeing with those
Okay.
statements. The only thing that I'm having a problem with is that we all recognize that even if you look and you could say, well, Cubans are going to be different than Puerto Ricans, and Puerto Ricans are going to be different than Mexicans, and Mexicans are going to be
Yeah.
different than Salvadorians, and they're going to be different than Costa Ricans. And at the end of the day, all of them are anti-black. Facts.
If they have a lot of look, Dominicans like have like run pogroms against Haitians, right? Like they've
Yeah,
like
of course.
slaughtered
Yes.
Haitians. Absolutely.
They hate
yeah.
blacks.
Exactly, they hate blacks. They despise them. Like they literally
Okay,
slaughtered
good.
them.
So you don't disagree with me. The same
well,
about
anti-blackness is
Mexicans.
universal.
Mexicans hate black too. Right?
No. Sorry.
Anti-blackness is an in-group problem. Black people are anti-black. Like anti-blackness being inside a group isn't.
What
That's
I
not.
said
I don't think
previously,
that's a
true.
threshold. Like that reaches the threshold of like problematic.
exactly. Yeah. So you have
Yeah,
you
guys are
have countries
crazy.
that have
Wait,
anti-black.
what?
You don't think black people are
Yeah,
anti? You don't think
please.
anti-blackness exists inside the black community? I'll tell you, Candace Owens.
No,
Yeah,
And
she's
she's-
an IPA, of course.
we're not. What does that have to do with what we're talking about, though?
Well,
It doesn't.
Fanatic make the argument like I'm these groups are anti-black, but I'm saying anti-blackness alone doesn't pass the threshold of like that. That's universal. That exists within every group, including black people.
Okay, so then the idea of the idea of a coalition, then, right? Like so if they
I
are
haven't
very
changed my
anti-black,
position on
right?
that.
Because while you can still say, like, you can say that there is some forms of self-hatred or internalized racism or colorism within the black community, it doesn't change the fact that, like, largely black people are still largely advocates of black issues, right? When you look at things like reparations, black people are very much in favor of that. So it seems like we do at least have some sort of things that we all kind of agree on, specifically when it comes to advocating for blackness, right, politically. But
I think reparation is more split than it should be. Like I'm super pro reparations.
not within the black community.
Yeah, not within the black
we're
community.
like pretty strongly pro reparations in the black community.
Really, I thought
I would say the black community is like 92%. Like,
yeah, we're hyper pro.
I don't know what the numbers are. Reparations.
Yeah, we can look it up.
I was just throwing out a figure.
Hey, so
But
I mean, I hope they are. I wish it would be 99, but I heard
I know this is
split in that.
I know this is anecdotal, so it doesn't have much value, but I do want to know if y'all share the same experience. When it comes to reparations, do y'all generally hear of support from other, like, black adjacent minority groups? Because I don't, and I specifically hear the opposite.
100%.
Like, so, like, when I think about just this idea of like allyship, like, I don't know what artifact we're looking like. Yeah, I agree with you, Prime. Like, there are, maybe one or two groups that are like trying to help. So I got to give you that. It's not just like that. Nothing
Okay.
exists for sure.
All right.
But when I talk to people, like, the hearts and minds don't seem to be, yes, I want to be a strong black ally. Outside of, like, close friends, like, and I think friendship is different from, like,
interpersonal versus, like, large.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, that's my black guy. I like him. But the rest of them, nah, man. We get them up out of here.
You have, but again, like, I don't know what this point is that you have groups that exhibit anti-black racism. I don't get that.
Wait.
Because that's just an exhibit. It's that it's rampant. It's that
hold on. I know, but it's rampant.
Prime, hold on, Prime, because I want to. There's two conversations, right? There's one expressing anti-black sentiments, but the conversation I want to have is kind of what you wanted us to talk about, which is support for, like, the black agenda. Or so things like reparations or whatever idea of black policy. I don't see support for that. So the anti-blackness, for sure, you can say everybody has anti-blackness, for sure. Let's grant you that. But when we talk about political black support, which is what you wanted to talk about, I don't see that either.
Okay, so can we put reparations aside, because I don't see, honestly, no one talks about this. It's not within our mainstream political discourse. It should be, but it really isn't. So putting that aside, what are black specific?
I feel like it is, but go ahead.
I don't think it is.
Well, here, let me explain to you how it is.
But before we get lost in that, like, I want to get to the larger point. Other than reparations, what are black issues? Yeah, please.
Police brutality. Well, I feel like the common ones.
Just the whole criminal justice,
criminal justice reform.
Education.
Education. But of course, all of these things are why we talk about reparations, because all of these things can be addressed by reparations. Black poverty. I mean, I guess that's it. That's normally it. Sure. Reparations is like normally is the main one.
Yeah, because what we're dealing with is something specific. Like that's really the reason why it always gets boiled down to the idea of reparations, is because what we're asking, what's the standard really is are you willing to, do you support the idea of doing something specifically for black people? And doesn't have to be exclusively, but like a targeted effort that, like, oh, okay, this is something that's specifically to help this community that's been through this thing. In the way that we do for that, in the way this happens for other groups, and that seems to be people seem to have a problem with that in general. Like, oh, why are we doing something just for them? Which because I can support, I support targeted efforts for specifically the queer community and LGBT groups. I support targeted efforts specifically for Native Americans, Asians, Jewish. I do believe that I believe that targeted help is should be more normalized in our political system. It doesn't always work that way. Like I said, it's not going to be exclusive. I don't care if other people benefit on the side, but I do think we should be more direct with our targeting, and a lot of outcomes don't.
This is where I went dark for like a moment, and maybe it was because I was listening to that crazy ass Destiny and Nick conversation. But I was like, when I first saw this topic, I was like, yo, like we try to include everybody in shit, and nobody tries to include us, and like maybe that's a problem. And like I don't think that, but I'm actually working through that now. Like when it comes to all of these issues, it's like we're always trying to include others in like things politically to help Black people, but there isn't that olive branch on the other side.
I got a prime example. The Asian hate crime bill that happened in record time.
Yeah,
and that ain't got nothing to do with Black people, and Black people been getting hated on for forever.
That is a terrible example. It's a great argument. Don't make that argument. Don't talk about that. That's a terrible example.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's not even called the Asian.
It's not
even called the Asian hate bill.
When we go to the nitty gritty and the facts about the Asian fucking
it.
hate crime bill, nobody wants to look at the fucking facts and anything about that.
Yeah.
All right, Asian
All it was
people
a little
are like
phone
on
line.
both sides of the fucking aisle. That's not the case with Black people. Republicans hate us. All right, Republicans fucking hate us. All right, they're cool with the fucking Asian people. They're not cool with us. Of course, it's a two-party bill when like Asian people are cool on both sides. All right, like no shit that's gonna go through.
Right,
but Black people, not so much.
But it wasn't an Asian hate bill, and all they did was give $17 to make a phone line.
Do you
like
think
for everyone?
Do you think that it makes sense then if like do you think that it makes sense then if the political party is willing to normalize hate against Black people by focusing on specifically hate against the minority recipients of hate crimes, right? Do you think that it would seem kind of ridiculous then, especially considering that Black people have been so staunchly Democratic for all of this time? Do you think that would seem problematic for the party that's supposed to have our interest to do something like that? That'd be largely harmful to Black people.
They have to get the votes, man. Like we had someone from Arizona and West Virginia mucking a lot of shit up. You think West Virginia's pro-Black?
No, I don't. But I'm sorry, are you going to answer my question?
Yeah. Like I don't think Manchin's pro-Black. All right. Like,
what?
Okay, that's fine. I don't think any of them are. But can you answer my question? Okay, I didn't think you were.
I think Manchin's pro-Manchin.
It's okay. We'll revisit it. So that
no,
you
what's
can
the question?
it. I got you. I'm about to give it to you. Don't trip. I figured. So listen. Do you think that it would be problematic for the party that's supposed to have our interest, right? Party that's supposed to be looking out for us to normalize hate against us by focusing on the minority of recipients of hate crime? Do you think that would be problematic? Is it fair for that to be problematic?
That would be problematic if they normalize hate against us. All they did was push through a bill that was targeted towards Asian hate crimes. That doesn't mean that they're normalizing.
No. It wasn't targeted toward Asian hate crimes.
They specifically made it a Black issue as well. They said that Black people. Yeah, like.
Yeah, they said Black people were hating on Asians.
Yes, they said that, and the media was absolutely running for that. And until they came out with the data that literally demonstrated, if you guys remember on the Jesse Lee Peterson interview, that was one of the questions he asked me. How do you feel about all these Black people? Because that's all I'm seeing on the media, all these Black people attacking these poor Asians. And I specifically said, yeah, except for FBI data came out that like detailed that 70% of those hate crimes were coming from white people. Right, they weren't Black people attacking those Asians, right? Yeah, bless his heart indeed.
So Taj, in that vein,
extremely...
hold on. Let's see if Taj will make a concession. So Taj, in that vein, hold on. Do you think it's problematic for the Democratic Party to first off address a minority hate issue and then to actually do it at the butt of Black people incorrectly? Do you think any of that is problematic? Or
none of this happened.
For votes is cool. No, wait, but I'm talking.
We're talking to him, down. I don't care that you're not going to be honest. We're talking to Taj because he actually has a working brain. Taj,
it's the COVID-19 hate crime.
Taj, can you respond, please?
Oh God, so we're dealing with this false narrative.
Yes, of course.
Okay, got you. Yes, we are. Taj.
Excellent. Yeah, so I think that compromise is problematic sometimes. I think that like just because like a false narrative about Black people isn't pushed through, wait, come on, let me finish. I think that pushing through a bill that is meant to stop or lower the amount of hate crimes towards a targeted demographic doesn't mean that they are like necessarily like aggrandizing the public narrative and the public view of what?
Well,
That's
no,
not
but
what we asked.
it is
All right,
slightly.
let me finish this. It's like it doesn't mean that they're aggrandizing or promoting this narrative that black people are out there looking for Asian and Chinese people to fucking beat the fuck up out of. I think that what they're
That
doing
was
is
the
doing something
narrative.
that's popular they're doing something that's popular with their constituents.
Wait,
Like,
but that was the narrative.
But the thing that was
That
popular
was
with their
the narrative.
constituents was a lie. They
That-
lied, and it only no. I'm sorry, and it wasn't that was already popular with their constituents. It only
So you
became
want the-
popular with It only became popular with their constituents after they lied and told that lie. No one believed that originally. That wasn't something that everyone thought. They told the lie. People swallowed the lie, drank the Kool-Aid, and then now at that point, it's a popular thing with their constituents because they made it.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why we're asking.
No.
Do you
They
find
did
any
something-
problem?
They made
with
that
You're
up,
saying that they
bro.
did something, then it became popular after they did it. They did something that was popular because their constituents probably fucking wanted that. Like,
Wait,
Bro,
I'm sorry, we're talking past each
Asians
other.
aren't
Or-
even that big of the population. What are you
Now you
talking
see why I
about?
told him he
There's
wasn't
probably a
answering the
good
question.
reason why they didn't do an Asian bill.
Wait, y'all don't remember? All right, I've stayed in Florida for the majority of my life. All right, so my understanding, like all the black people I knew in Florida were like, oh damn, it's kind of fucked up what they're doing to Asian people right now. Like how Asian people have to like put the fucking like plexiglass things in front of their fucking like counters at the fucking Chinese restaurants.
Already
and shit.
had those.
That was like a
Everybody had those.
not in Florida, not in fucking Florida. No,
Yeah.
no, there's been
Everybody
so much
had
stigma
those in
towards Asian
California.
people here. Oh, okay. I
White,
haven't been to
black,
California in
whoever.
my life. Oh,
Was
I've
it?
never seen that in California. Okay. No, I mean, look. All right.
It's 'cause you don't live here.
I
What?
haven't seen this. Okay. All right. In Florida, in Orlando in particular, I've seen this shit a lot where like Asian restaurants I go to in particular would have like all these different like bullshit security, like the security theater type shits or like cleanliness theater rather of like, oh, we have the big plexiglass screen now type shit because like they're afraid of all the stigma of the people in the Central Florida area being like, oh, these dirty Asians. That's something that I've seen. So if someone
Wait, are you sure that had nothing to do with COVID?
Yeah,
That
what
was
are you?
COVID in general?
yeah, of course
Yeah, he's talking
they
about
had to
COVID.
do this more. All right, to my understanding, in
You're
my lived
saying that
experience,
people
what I've
put a
seen.
barrier between them and their constituents during COVID is what? What's happening?
Everybody
No, that's not what
did.
I'm saying.
That's what you just
All right,
said.
let's run this back, Turbo. Let's run this back, Turbo. I'm so sorry. We're running this back. All right, so what I'm saying is, I feel like there's been a lot of stigma that went towards Asian people that a lot of people, particularly Democrats, saw was like, oh shit, there's a lot of new stigma towards Asian people going on right now due to COVID, due to Trump saying the China virus, due to all the shit that we're seeing in media and shit like that.
Flu.
So, of course, a lot of like Asian people are like, oh shit, I don't want the stigma of the China virus landing on me in my Chinese restaurant or me in my gas station or whatever. I'm gonna like up the fucking like cleanliness theater to combat
Wait,
this
Do you
stereotype.
think that's why they put up the
No, what
plexiglass?
are you talking about, bruh?
I'm sorry.
They
I don't know what
literally
you're
had to do
talking
that to
about,
open
Taj.
their business.
Because
Yes,
of COVID.
bro.
These are
Like,
just
yo, put
these were
these
literally
things in
black
place.
No,
businesses
not
were
in
doing
Florida.
that.
Not in fucking Florida.
Everywhere
Not in
did
Florida.
this, bro. I was in Florida during the
Not in Florida.
pandemic too. Sometimes.
Prime, can like everyone?
Bro, you
Anyone
didn't
has to
know-
respond
wait,
to anything
wait,
I say.
GC, were you
Just
from-
let me make just like a really quick point, and everyone can continue to say the stupid things they're saying.
How does this go
There
really
is
fast?
like, but I promise, no one has to address what I say at all. I promise. This is just for the
We
people in the
probably
audience.
won't. Just go ahead and say it.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there was no Asian hate bill. That's not a real thing. There was the COVID-19 COVID-19 hate crime act. All this did was create a phone line to report every single hate crime that happens in the United States, whether that be
No,
black.
he's doing something specific for Asians.
No, there was
This
nothing
is a lie.
specific. There was nothing specific.
Okay, I'll look it up for you and I'll tell you the name of it.
I'm telling you the exact name of it. You can look at it right now.
They pinned some
COVID-19
They
hate crime.
pinned some document
Okay, hey,
specifically about anti-Asian hate.
Yeah.
Can I please? It's okay. Here, I'll help him. Okay. Executive Order on Advancing Equity, Justice, and Opportunity for Asian Americans, Native Americans, and Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, May 28th, 2021, presidential action. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, policy. Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders and NHPI individuals and communities are irrefutable sources of our nation's strength. These communities have molded the American experience, and the achievements of AA and NHPI communities make the United States stronger and more vibrant. The richness of American multicultural democracy is strengthened by the diversity of AA and NHPI communities in many cultures and languages of AA. I'm done. Suck my dick. I don't know what the
You just confirmed everything I said. It had nothing to do with Asian people. All it was a
Bro,
phone
they
line.
literally-
Oh, no, you're right. No, okay, KK, you're right. Yeah, you're moving.
Everyone ignore that. We're moving
You said
past that.
Native
We're not doing
Americans.
it.
You said
We're
African
not moving.
Americans.
Yeah,
You said
we're
Asian Americans.
Hey,
All they did was create a phone line.
I never said African Americans, you idiot. AA was Asian Americans. Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders.
And
It was
what
an
did it do?
AAPI.
And what did it do?
Yeah, we're done talking. Stop talking to me.
No,
You're
what
not
did
even
it do?
listening.
Exactly.
We're done talking.
Bro,
Move
it's a
past it.
specific bill for them.
What did it
Idiot.
do?
I'm done
It
talking
wasn't
to
a
this
bill. Wait a
nigga.
minute. That wasn't a bill. Just be
That was
clear.
an executive order.
It was
Executive
order.
order.
Yeah, it was an act.
Sorry.
What did it
I'm
do?
using the wrong terminology.
Create
Yeah,
a
whatever. It
phone
doesn't
line.
matter. Why are we arguing this? They never did anything specific for Asians, right?
Correct.
Okay, there you go. Move past it. We're going on.
Okay, all right.
Idiot.
Nigga named 17 different
Wait,
ethnicities and said it was
I have a
specifically
quick
Asian.
question.
I named one specific
Bro.
ethnicity, as everyone else here could hear.
So you didn't
Asian
say Native
American,
American?
Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. That's all one thing. They're one
Are Pacific-
coalition.
Pacific Islanders are
AAPI.
Asians? Pacific Islanders
Okay,
are
you're an
Asians now?
idiot.
You're an
Okay,
idiot.
Bro,
no one ever
bro,
considered
you
them.
made
No
the
one
claim
ever
you
groups
was
them.
wrong.
He's right. We'll move
Okay.
past it.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm talking to this
Let
moron.
me
Let's go.
let me try.
Keep going.
Let me circle back around.
Freaking
Let me circle
idiot.
back around to what I was saying like 10 minutes before, and then we got on this train. And all right. So, oh boy, I think it was GSU Gambit. But also might have been Fanatic. I'm not sure. But one of you talked about and I think it was Bam as well. Talking about like well, we need to see solidarity for these groups, right? On black issues, right? Specifically black issues. And I had you guys name some black issues. So I'm gonna make clear what my argument here is that our interests overlap. And so you find these natural coalitions happening all the time, everywhere, right? Like for labor issues, our interests overlap. So you have people end up fighting for one another. So like that's what I look at as solidarity. However, what you guys have done specifically draw a make a requirement that for solidarity, you have to sign on to some black issue, right? Some black focused issue, and a policy solution that is black focused, black targeted, right? Do I have that correct?
Yeah, and I'll explain why. Because
Yeah.
if you look at things like the community that we don't. When we look at the community, the way that they define allyship is when you are fighting for these specific causes that they are fighting for. They don't define allyship as just, I want the general well-being of all people to be better, right? Or poor people to be better, or blah, blah, blah. Because we could say that a lot of that group is disproportionately poor due to systemic factors, right? But we don't look at it as allyship when I say, hey, I think we should have healthcare, public option. We don't say that's that community's allyship, right? And they wouldn't accept that as allyship. So if you're not going to also fight for causes specifically related to our community, I don't see that as allyship either.
Sure. Okay. All right. So I hear you, and I think that's.
Yeah.
Sorry, hitting my mic. I think that's an interesting point. Now, what I want to ask you, going based on your requirement, what's a bill, legislation that you would design that is specifically targeted to black individuals in terms of police brutality, and talking about police brutality that wouldn't also help our Latin brothers and sisters?
Yeah, so it doesn't have to only help black people. It just the energy of like the George Floyd Policing Act, right? That would help a bigger group, but disproportionately it would help black people. And that's what I'm saying.
That is it. Okay, hold on. I specifically laid this out, right, before I got started, saying it has to target black Americans. And
That's
then
what the Policing Act does.
Great,
It targets
but
black Americans, but it also can help others because it's fixing the systemic issue.
Then my argument was that our interests align and that these things overlap any which way, right? What I'm saying is that your standard is imaginary. That you're trying to make this hyper. Let me say, you're trying to make a hyper specific standard that is like difficult to meet. Right? When I'm saying that, like, already we have that solidarity. You see these different groups working together on these different interests because the solutions happen to benefit both. So that I'll have to look it up. But I could imagine that a Latin group would celebrate the George Floyd Act for all the reasons that you just said. That it would help Latin Americans. That reforming police in general will help colored people in general.
Do you think there's a public poll on how Latin people feel about the George Floyd Police Act? I will grant that there's probably not, because there's a lack of interest there.
I don't know.
What about HR 40? What about like something like HR 40?
Okay.
What about that one? That one's aimed directly.
You have
at
to
Black
explain.
people.
I don't know HR 40.
HR 40 is the reparations bill that has been like sitting in Congress for 40 years, specifically talking about like being aimed at Black people. Or
that's why
we could even talk about like at the state level, right? Like California just recently passed their reparations bill, but that wasn't particularly favored by Latin people, right?
Well, first of all, I have no idea what the polling is for any of that. I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess I should find it. I should find it for
please.
you.
I love to see it. But like again, that's why I specifically said not reparations.
Because,
because part of the problem with reparations, one, like I said, like I believe that this is not something that's within mainstream discourse. Politicians on either side.
It passed in California, so in California it's mainstream discourse.
I was going to say, number one, California is the largest state in the entire freaking union.
Let me finish.
Largest economy in the
once
world.
I'm done my sentence, I would love to hear what you have to say. I'd say one, because it's not within mainstream discourse in general, right? But two, the way reparations is framed is that it causes a lot of divisions, because a lot of groups are like, I want mine too, right? Like, okay, so you're gonna support reparations for Black Americans, but will Latin America?
Do Black Americans fight against Native American reparations?
I'm pretty sure they do, right?
No.
I'm
Find me a single example of that. That's a lie. That's a lie. Number one. Number two.
Find me an example of what you were talking about. But
okay, all right. First, let me address the first thing that you said.
So all I'm saying is that like the reparations in itself, like tends to
it's only divisive when it's Black.
To make these divisions in the first place, right?
When it's Black.
And so that's why hold on. When it's any ethnic group. If we have Asian reparations, look what just happened now. Look what just happened. We were talking about that Asian targeted executive order, right? And there's resentment here, and there is resentment here that our Asian brothers and sisters got taken care of. When you have these targeted bills, you have that resentment. It breeds that resentment.
Let him finish. Please let him finish.
Exactly what I'm saying.
I got some more ammo about this, by the way.
I'm done.
The problem we had was that it was done to the of Black people, and it was an incorrect lie. It wasn't that it was support for the Asian community. You will not find things where the Black community is just not supporting other communities getting something that's helpful for them. So I feel like it's like really disingenuous to say, "Oh, y'all were just talking about the Asian hate bill." We were specifically talking about it because it was done at the butt of Black people as a lie, because there was something that was being given.
It wasn't.
I find it. Here we go. I find it interesting. I find it. No. I gotta address the points that he said already.
Niggas got a lot
Give myself
of
a 7-minute refresher. Y'all niggas are fucked now, all right? Because now I'm talking, all right? So what happened on March 16th, 2020 fucking one in Atlanta City?
Three white
one thing should have a presidential executive order against Black people
in the anti-Asian hate crime bill. So like
COVID-19 hate crime bill.
Oh, my nigga, you think one shooting it out deserves that?
This is a real thing that fucking happened to Asian people. And like to say that,
okay, can I bring your attention to this year? No, Todd. Listen, this year, a dude went in with the N-word on a gun in a supermarket and shot just Black people, walked up to a white dude and said, "Oops, my bad," and then walked off and started shooting more Black people.
No, make sure that he went out of his way.
No. Hey, we're not gonna We're not gonna fight anecdotes. We're not gonna fight anecdotes with anecdotes. What we're gonna do is actually elevate this discourse. And so what we're gonna talk about is the fact that even with that individual hate crime that you're talking about, we're gonna focus on the fact that the vast majority, literally, the largest recipient of hate crime was still Black people. There are multiple classifications for hate crimes. They can be race, they can be religious based, they can be whatever. But the largest reason for hate crimes is going to be because of race. That's what the FBI data says. And the largest recipients of those hate crimes are Black people. So I don't care about your freaking anecdote. The difference is that all of the Black hate crimes that they're receiving, which outnumber the Asians one 20-1, none of those are talked about in the media. So talking about the one that the media decided to focus on, which was a white guy, despite the fact that they tried to paint this thing as anti-Black, and then ignoring all of the ones that are happening against Black people, 20-1 is that normalization. If you were getting if someone was robbing from you every freaking day, and then your neighbor just had his house egged, and all of the community got behind that neighbor's house and said, wait, we got to worry about this dude's house, you'd be like, wait, what the freak? I've been robbed every freaking day and nobody's talking about that. That's normalization. When you decide to focus on something that's the minority of an issue while ignoring the primary recipient, that's normalization. So you're doing it right now, talking about these one idiots that 5 of them people died, when you got hundreds of Black people dying every freaking year and no one talks about it. That's the normalization. When you can have Buffalo, New York, and a nigga goes and shoots all of them people, and then 2 weeks later, Biden decides to bring BTS to the White House to talk about Asians, that's the normalization.
He doesn't know what the bill did.
So true.
That's the problem.
He doesn't know what the bill does.
Hold on. But did
Did
Biden address the massacres at the time?
There was gun
He
legislation.
might have addressed it. He didn't bring anybody to the dang White House. He didn't. Black people have been asking in wake on all of these issues for our own anti-lynching bill, for an anti-Black hate crime bill. This has been been in talking points. There have been different politicians that have been talking about it, but nobody is actually passing anything like that. Biden's not championing that cause. Even if it's something that would have been unpopular, he could have at least be vocalizing support for it, but he has not done so. We have not yet received it.
Okay, so Buffalo massacre, right? There's a Buffalo shooting.
Yes, Buffalo massacre.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he made like
an executive order.
An address. So like, no, because the standard he specifically brought in
a speech.
The standard he specifically brought in was like bringing BTS in to have a discussion, right?
On anti-Asian thing, which to me was a furtherance of the long. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's not look at this thing. Let's not look at this thing in a retarded vacuum. Let's actually use our brains here.
Yes.
Okay, because all of this is still part of the same conversation. The anti-Asian, Stop Asian Hate movement from its inception, to me, was absolutely normalizing the hate crimes against Black people. The reason is because if Asians are literally making up 4% of all hate crimes in the dang country, and they're going from 2% of all hate crimes to 4%. Those are the actual numbers. When you say from 2% of all hate crimes to 4% of all hate crimes, and you decide we're so taken aback and alarmed at the 4% while ignoring the people who are receiving 47% of all hate crimes, that is normalizing. It's a problem. That's number one. So then when that problem has gotten executive orders, has gotten both sides supporting it, right? And then now when you start having big parties like BTS, incredibly popular pop stars, coming to the White House to talk about that, and you're still doing that in wake of a freaking Buffalo massacre, where instead of us talking about anti-Black hatred within this country, we shift the conversation to freaking immigration to do everything we can to stop talking about Black hate. Right? So when you're doing that, so that is part of the whole thing. It was part of the executive orders that he signed for the anti-Asian hate movement. It's part of the Democratic Party's unfairly labeling it as Black people attacking Asians when it was all white people. It's the fact that that movement was even got traction in the first place, and it's to do that immediately in the wake of the Buffalo freaking shooting. All of those things together are what make it so disgusting.
He wants to be virtuous.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to address the point that you made, right? So we don't move past this point. I'm going to address the point that you made, bringing in BTS, like contrasting that to like the temporal proximity to the Buffalo shooting, right?
Sure.
When the Buffalo shooting happened, Biden gave an extremely emotional speech, right? Talking about white supremacy, talking about how white supremacy is a poison.
Did he bring any Black people to the White House?
Excuse me. Is this my turn? Is this my turn?
Okay,
right.
Go ahead. You're gonna talk all past it. I got you.
Excuse me, right? So, like, the problem seems to be that, like, uh, that we didn't spend a full 2 weeks or full month or full whatever talking about this one issue. Yes, he brought in other people to talk about anti-Asian racism. Right? He brought in BTS, brought in that group, right? It seems to me, again, it sounds like resentment that Biden would dare, right, take his focus even for a second away from anti-black racism, which is a big problem. We already know this, right? Everyone here already gets that. That he moved this focus, shifted focus to have this event with BTS, and that is somehow an insult. This is what I'm talking about with this resentment that happens when other groups get theirs. And exactly what I'm talking. This is why I want to avoid the talk about reparations, because of exactly this level of resentment, which is why I specifically asked you, hey, let's look at some of these targeted issues, right? We look at these targeted issues, and guess what? Our interests tend to align, right? Things that will help Black Americans will also help our Latin brothers and sisters. So these things align. So to pretend that these things are separate, and then when we do separate these things, it breeds resentment, as we're seeing right the fuck now. Yeah, that's a problem. Done.
I don't resent them. I resent. Go ahead.
I want Prime to walk all of that back real quick. Prime, would you say the focus of Fanatics' outrage was the disregard for Black people or the support for Asians? What would you say most of his targeted anger was at?
Biden went to Buffalo.
No, let Prime talk.
Fine. Could you say that again? Could you restate that?
Do you think Fanatics, his focus and his anger was at the lack of support in the same way for Black people, or that Asian people were getting support? Which of those do you think was the primary focus of his outrage?
I think those were tied. I mean, look, when you bring up like the fact that there was that BTS showed up at the White House 2 weeks later, right? As if that means anything. That was almost certainly scheduled before the Buffalo. If the timeline is what Fanatic said, he said 2 weeks afterwards, right? That almost certainly was scheduled before the massacre in general. Right, but still, he brings it up as an example of how could Biden do that? How could he take his focus away? Like, these things take forever, right? These things are on planning for months. People don't just show up at the White House. You don't just like get an audience with the president in 2 weeks. Well, it's very rarely that happens in 2 weeks' time. So still he looks at this as like something being taken away from us.
So you think it's time? You really do? You honestly think?
I think the resentment is deep. I think he showed it to us.
Okay, so do you think? So do you think this is where it gets dicey? Do you think if Biden held a press conference for Black people, signed an executive order for Black people, and he signed an executive order for the Asians, do you think Fanatic would still be upset?
Be upset.
Because you think they're equal, so you think there'd still be some resentment that he'd have if this Asian things happen as well as Black people getting what was due.
In that case, I think Fanatic would actually. I'm still going to talk. I'm just going to talk. I'm going to say that my position.
Yeah, but Prime is very intelligent.
So, would he still be upset? I think that okay. Depends on what it is, right? It depends. No. This part is important. And I'm actually being very serious, right? It depends on what it is, because the other week, right? It wasn't last week, maybe the week before. We talked about the Crown Act. The Crown Act that was in was in Massachusetts. I think this particular one. There's different Crown Acts in different states, right? And in case you don't know, Crown Act simply gives like legal protections against hair discrimination, right? For different hairstyles, ethnic hairstyles, right? White people will say like, "Oh, you're being unprofessional" or something, right? Or you can't come to school, kid, because you have this hairstyle. So this was pushed by Black women. This was a thing that was pushed by Black women, and it was signed by the governor, right? And I brought that up, and I would think we would all have like we all be on the same page here. But Fanatic got like went on this whole tangent, got super upset, right? Well, it wasn't reparations. This thing that you signed, right, which was pushed by black women who have faced that discrimination the most, right? He's like, well, that's not enough. It's not enough. So when you tell me if like Biden had signed a executive order for black people and Asian people at the same time, I say, yeah, it fucking depends. Because even if it's something that black people have been pushing for, he might say, well, it's not reparations. I don't see him talking about reparations. So yeah, it still might not be enough. That's my
He
answer.
picks and chooses when he cares about tangibles. That's the issue.
What?
All right, I tried.
He picks and chooses when he cares about tangibles.
Wow.
I'm about to say the
Don't
COVID-19
entertain
Wow.
that.
the
Let him make the statement and
Yeah,
move
let me
on. Don't
finish.
entertain
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
He's
The
not-
COVID-19
he's not
hate crime bill doesn't contain any tangibles. But Fanatic would not be proud if it was called the black COVID-19 hate crime bill that created a phone line that reported every hate crime for every ethnicity and person in the country. Fanatic would not be satisfied with that if you put a black on it. So, but because the Asian people, because it says, well, it doesn't even say Asian, because the COVID-19 hate crime bill has the word Asian in it. Now, the tangibles of the bill doesn't matter. The only thing he's interested in is the fact that, like, oh my goodness, they're being targeted. This nigga's a liar. He's not inconsistent with his beliefs.
Okay. All right. Moving past that, everyone else, we can.
Yes.
It's so brave to not engage. Proud.
Yeah, you're
of you.
right. 100%. It's very
So what I
brave.
want, so what
This
I want,
dumb.
Moving
so-
past
what I
that.
want to talk about,
Thank
I
you.
want to talk about is the second half of the prompt is the left, making a narrative thing that the black and brown coalition together, that might be actually true.
hmm Sure, I would say they do that, but
Yeah.
because they're always like mentioning, black people and people of color. Like it's very rare that they're going to make a statement and then not throw in the people of color part with it, right? And so I think like that is
Yeah.
what they're trying to do in that regard. And the people of color thing has like really really bothered me because like in a lot of ways, again, they weren't interested in being people of color. Chinese people fought to be called white. They specifically said that they did not want their children mixing with black people when it came to like integration things regarding schooling. And they were being forced to go to school with black kids. And they were like, we don't want our kids going to school with the black kids. Right. So Chinese fought to be called white as well. It's not until the early 1960s when there started to be all sudden forward momentum specifically aimed at black people, where it was like, hey, where it seemed like now you have you can use blackness as a sort of political tool that suddenly they were just like, actually about that blackness, I'm kind of about that, well, we're people of color, right? Then it's what we want to be lumped in. You lumped in as long as what do they call that, fair weather friends. It's like, yo, as long as things are going well for y'all niggas,
Yeah.
I'm with that. But then what you will find is that a lot of Chinese were also supporting the Proud Boy movement. All of a sudden, when it started coming down to it, when we were protesting over George Floyd, them Asians were noticeably silent. It wasn't until all of a sudden then they started making them calls about like, yeah, y'all need to support Asians. That's what they were talking about. That Aquafina chick, with all of her anti-blackness and all that stuff, making a minstrel of black people, she could do all the blackness, and she was talking about some black people need to support Asians. Yet you didn't hear her to supporting Black Lives Matter. It's crazy. It's always one-sided.
Yep.
So what
That's
if
true. Like
in this
the,
case,
the George Floyd. Okay.
what if
Sorry.
in this case, this bill being passed actually highlighted that we also need a bill and got something moving forward on our behalf?
Well,
Wouldn't that make it useful?
Sure. Simply stating that something might have some long-term, like indirect benefits, in some like whatever, in some unrelated whatever way. I mean, sure, that's a potential, but that has nothing like that doesn't dismiss what I'm talking about at all.
I'm just impressed at the utter like how do y'all not see that this is problematic in and of itself? Like to just not involve black people at all, to just ignore our stuff. There's nothing that says I don't know of anything that explicitly says, yo, this is for black people. I don't know where I've seen that in writing where
They won't.
it mentions by name, yo, this is for African Americans or
They don't.
like black people,
Never.
like anything besides the like the what is that? what is that? But it's stricken from the record, the 3/5 compromise, and that was just calling us the N-word. Like nothing outside of that talks to black people.
Well, the civil
At
rights movement
all.
was targeted. The civil rights movement. The 13th
That didn't
Amendment.
With the
that
Civil
didn't
Rights Bill, it
expressly
didn't.
mention
I mean,
black
yeah,
people.
it-
It's just
Civil Rights Act of '64. That was specifically targeted towards black people. But it
Oh,
didn't
does
other
it?
groups.
Was it? Because I thought it said that
It
there
said
should be no
everybody.
discrimination
Wait, are
based
we
on
talking about-
sex, gender, race, all of those things. I didn't know that it specifically targeted black
Wait,
people.
what
Did
are we
it
talking? Are we
specifically name black people?
Neither there's no again.
Oh,
are we
okay.
talking
So,
about
so he didn't answer. He wasn't responding to you, Bam.
I'm responding.
That's
I'm
my
responding.
fault. I shouldn't have engaged with him.
Bam.
My
Okay,
fault.
which
That's my fault.
threshold are we dealing with?
Bam.
Are we
That's my
talking
fault.
about the
I was
word?
That's my
very
fault.
clear.
There is no
Bam.
bill that says
Yeah.
any
Bam.
says
I was
Asian people
very
in it.
clear.
There's-
I
Okay.
said
my
when
fault.
I said what I said, it was explicit language
That doesn't exist
mentions
for
black
any
people.
group. That doesn't exist.
For black people.
That
there's
doesn't exist for
nothing.
any group.
That-
That's what I'm saying.
Bro, that
This is the
Asian
entire
people
point of my
literally
conversation.
mentioned-
We're not
Bro.
holding a consistent logic. There is no bill. The bill that you're discussing doesn't say Asian people.
I'm not talking
So if
about
that's
just
what
a
you
bill,
care
I'm
about,
talking
that's
The
not, that
executive
doesn't
order
exist.
does.
It does not say Asian people.
The
And
executive
code.
the executive order does.
Writing.
The executive order does. The executive order does. I read it to you. The
did not
executive
read the
order does.
code.
I read that to you. The executive order does.
It does not.
Can you
You're
find?
lying.
I just
You're
read it, you
actually just
idiot.
lying.
Here, I'll read it again, you actual moron.
What?
Since I know that you can't,
Read
I'll
the
read it
code.
again, you
What is the
actual
code?
idiot. Here, I'll find it. You moron. I read it already for you, but I get it. Your comprehension is so boo-boo. You don't know. I did read it.
Well,
You
you're
don't
an
rag on too tight, bro.
Wait, Bam, hold on, wait,
Actual
Bam, this
idiot.
can't be true. Bam, this can't be true. You don't think the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act thingy or whatever, this was the speech, but you don't think that thing mentioned Asian people? You don't think that?
No,
You don't think it
this isn't something. It's target again. It was inspired by.
mentioned?
Bro,
No.
Bam. Stop doing
Just read the code.
Look, I'm talking.
It's like
He
6
read
pages.
the code already.
That he
Why are
didn't
we
read the
going
code.
back to that?
He read it to you.
No, he read Biden's speech after the fact. He didn't read the code of the act. The act
I
does not
read
say
the
this is
dang
the-
executive
He read the
order.
code.
The executive
He literally
order.
stated the numbers before he even got started.
Jesus,
Get out
he's
your
so
phone,
stupid.
untie your
This
do-rag,
is
and
this-
pay
this is
attention,
stupid.
It's
bro.
S937.
Yes, it's
you're right.
in the paragraph. It mentions Asian Americans. I'm gonna send you the text from Congress.gov/bill. Yes, nigga, it says it. It's in the
Bro,
actual
no,
text.
no,
Bill
drop the
requires
text in
by
the
the
chat,
designated
so
officer
this can
employee
be
of the Department of Justice, DOJ, to facilitate.
Just click the link, man. Just click the damn link.
I'm
Just click.
reading it right now. The
Okay,
DOJ.
good. Stop talking and read it. And admit you're wrong. Just read the dang link.
guidance
Read it.
for State, local,
You're wrong.
and tribal enforcement agencies on establishing online hate crime reporting process, collecting data disaggregated by protected characteristics, i.e., race, national origin, and expanding education campaigns. Additionally, the
What are you
DOJ of the
reading?
Department of Health
He's
and
not
Human
reading your
Resources.
link. He just reads past it.
I'm
So
reading.
he's not gonna read it. He's not gonna read it.
I'm reading.
He's not reading it.
I'm reading the literal.
In the chat. Number one, following the spread of COVID-19 in 2020, there's been a dramatic increase in hate crimes and violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. That's number one. That's at the top. That's the
What?
intro. You're reading fucking COVID-19 hate crimes act. I don't know what the fuck you're reading, but you're absolutely lying.
I'm reading. I'm
It's in
reading
the-
S937. I'm not reading. I don't know what you're posting.
Click
I'm
the
reading the
damn
act-
link.
You're not.
Can we stop engaging with him? He's not going to be honest. We already told him what is in there. He's trying to lie. We know exactly what the freak is in there, so he's not going to read it. You gave him the link. He won't even do that. Why the freak are we still engaging?
This isn't the.
Just move past it.
Really? You ain't put the link, nigga?
This isn't the. This wasn't the thing I was reading in Congress for S937.
He told you what to
Okay,
read. He told you he was dropping it, and he wanted to
something
read something else. Nigga, I don't know why we're still engaging with
I
him.
sent literally.
It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid.
Okay.
I'm just gonna need you to shut up real quick.
So
I'm just
wait
gonna
a minute. Okay. So, look, all right. I'm not familiar in law enough with laws to say whether a friend Smooth is right or wrong about like whether like black or Negro like specifically a person law. I feel like that's not the case. I feel like it is the case that it does, but I don't know enough. So I was looking into that. But this was all happening while that was the
Well, Bam was like
circumlocuting.
circumlocuting.
So Bam.
I just posted it in chat.
Okay. You posted
I literally
something.
posted it in the chat.
Okay,
Like the
but I didn't
first
see.
couple paragraphs. This for Bam.
I
Oh, that's for
literally
Bam. Okay.
I posted the link as well to literally the exact thing I was reading from Congress.org.
Bro, you just skipped over a whole portion. If I'm able to copy paste what I did, and I didn't even,
It's in
I
the
didn't even move
beginning,
my
Bam.
screen. My
Bam,
cursor
it's
didn't even move.
point.
It was literally right in my face as soon as I opened it. Asian Americans. Like it
Yeah, Bam,
literally
it's like
says
point one, bro. It's point one of the thing that actually passed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. Point one specifically mentions Asian Americans. And yeah,
Did you click the link that I sent? Did you click the link that I put in chat?
So no, he's not going to read your link. He wants you to read his link. Like I said, I don't know why we're still engaging with this. This is beneath me.
I'm saying that you're acting like what I sent wasn't. I'm sent the.
I don't care. I don't care. Just move past it. You were wrong. You were wrong. You were wrong, and everybody sees it. We gave you the link, told you what to read, put it at the very top of the page, and you refused. Freak out of here, nigga. We all see it.
Hold on.
This thing ain't real.
Okay.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Bam. I really want to show how dishonest you're being because I can't believe this, nigga. I sent you the text, which is the second link on the link you sent me. You are reading the summary. So instead of reading the actual act, the shit that we're fucking talking about, you're reading the summary of it. So click that summary, the next fucking tab beside it says text, and that's what I read you. The text of the actual bill that was passed. In the first sentence, it says Asian Americans. That's all we're trying to get you to do. We're trying to get you to acknowledge that, yes, it mentions Asian Americans in the bill, not in the fucking summary of the bill. That's all we're trying to get you to do, bro. That's all we want you to say is, yes, this shit mentions Asian Americans in the opening preamble of the fucking bill.
I went to, again, I clicked on your link. Yes.
We don't want to hear what you did. Just admit it.
Yes. He said yes. He just said yes.
I'm really going to need you to stop yelling. I'm just
okay. Well, they actually engage and stop being dishonest. Just answer the question. Did you read it? Is it there? Or just say it? That's what he said. He just gave a whole thing where he said, all I want you to do is admit this. All I want you to do is admit that. And now you're going to say,
he just said yes. He just said yes. He said yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it because I was talking. Say it one more time so I can hear it.
Again, I've read. I clicked on what Gambit said. I see that it said Asian. That doesn't.
So you were wrong.
No,
you said it didn't say Asian.
Yes.
You said it didn't say Asian. Does it say Asian?
Yes, I said yes, but Fanatic, I'm going to.
Okay, so you were wrong.
I'm not. I'm Fanatic. Yes, now I'm going to need you to stop yelling.
Okay, were you wrong?
Fanatic, I don't know how to say yes, but that's not.
Were you wrong? Were you wrong?
I said yes. No, I'm going.
Well, you keep talking around it. I can't hear him. Just really simple. Were you wrong?
I'm not saying it again.
He said yes.
I'm not talking about it. I need to mute. He's doing everything besides admit that he's wrong.
Okay.
Someone clip it for me. I didn't hear it.
Okay. All right, we're done. We're already over. We're already over time. We're 20 minutes over time for this topic. We're 20 minutes over time. We're 20 minutes over time.
And everyone saw it. Embarrassing.
He said yes. He said that it was wrong. So we're moving on. It's done.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna finish this in my
as long as we finally see that.
Done.
We waited around for. Wait, hold on. Prime. I need us to wait 10 seconds because we gave this nigga 10 minutes of a moment of silence for the one time that he's ever been right about anything in his entire panel. And now I think we need to go ahead and do it for the opposite so we can remember where exactly this nigga belongs. I won't count. Let's just go ahead and have that moment of silence for this nigga's dignity.
This is hilarious.
No, be silent. Bam, silent. Silent, Bam.
Nigga, don't tell
10 seconds starts over because he keep talking. No, I'm kidding. We can move on.
Yo, timeout.
We give you grade A content, bro. We give you grade A, dog.
How is this not like the best thing we put on? How is that the best thing on Twitch, right? Fucking like and subscribe on this bullshit. Like, what? Like, what the fuck?
I hate you, dude. I love y'all, but I hate you.
Yeah, we love you too, bro. We love you too, bro.
Yeah. No. The moment I knew he read it was he looked at it in his phone and he just paused for a minute.
And then we're still trying to figure out how am I gonna get past this one now? Oh no!
I've never argued in bad faith.
Okay.
I sent a link for exactly what I said.
Hold on. You may not have been arguing in bad faith, but understand when a nigga sends you the link and they're like, bro, I just want you to click it and read the beginning. It wasn't like I was like, yo, you got to figure out where it is. And I was like, bro, just click the thing that I sent you and it's there, nigga. And
Now,
you
do
were like, nah, but the one I'm reading, though, I'm like,
because I wasn't on. You didn't know what the bill was called. That's what the act was called.
what is the name of it?
But the point is, do you believe that there's no police of legislation that says black people?
Bam.
Do you believe that doesn't exist?
Bam. Hold on.
I've already said that wrong. I don't want to. Okay. As long as you address it at the end.
I promise you I am. Bam. You were looking at a summary that was about four sentences. You thought the entire bill was those 4 sentences?
Well, it's not really
summary?
a bill. It's not really a bill, but yeah.
Wait, yes, it is.
It was an order.
Congress.
Yeah, it became law. What do you mean it wasn't a bill?
Bill. That is not the
What are
president.
you talking about? It's not
Are we going back? Are we going back?
No, we're not. We're not doing this. We're not doing it. Now we're moving past that.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm mentally prepared first.
Okay.
This thing passed Congress, it passed Senate and the House.
Okay.
it's a bill.
People kept saying I was wrong.
Do I think that is something that
Sure.
specifically
We got to move. We got to move
Okay.
past. Thank you,
answer that.
Remy LeBeau, for the 500 bits saying fire content. Okay, all right. This is like the best, guys. I don't know why you guys you need to. You gotta support this. Like, if you like having this is literally the best thing. More people need to be watching All Black Everything, right? Like, more people need to be watching this. I don't have to tell you. This is like peak content. All right, we're moving past it. We're moving past all that.
It was one.